Okay, I'm gonna shoot a quick video, just document the damage to this roof. This address is 1120 Landale Court. The homeowner's name is Van Woods. So just document the damage that we found on this roof. So the first thing that I'll point out on this roof is just you can see how the roof is becoming brittle. You can see to where you have a lot of dark spots to where the asphalt is starting to fall off the roof. Same thing here. You can just see the granular loss on this roof. We'll go to another spot. Just kind of say the same thing here. See where the shingle is starting to become brittle and starting to show signs of wear, age, and tear. The homeowner is also done. You can see to where the shingle is a different color. So repairs have been done to this roof. So the homeowner has done their part and tried to repair it when it has had, some wind events on the roof. But I think this claim was for, I think sometime this month, it was a hail and wind storm that I sent you guys over the weather report for. It had 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and then it also had quarter-size hail report on that date. Just showed you guys the age damage. The reason I showed the granular loss and the age wear and tear, because you can kind of see the same thing here. The reason I'm showing that because along with the brittleness of the roof and the amount of damage, this roof cannot be repaired. So if you look at this shingle, like right here, this crease shingle, so to do a repair on this shingle, I would have to remove these surrounding shingles. And because it's already showing signs of brittleness on this roof, when I take this damaged shingle out, I'm gonna have to lift these shingles up. And when I lift these shingles up, it's gonna crease this shingle because the roof is already showing signs of brittleness. So this roof cannot be repaired because it's already brittle, and it'll damage the surrounding shingles when I try to perform a repair. So we're here on the left slope. On the left slope, I found 21 indications of more of wind damage, and then I also found 14 hail impacts inside of a test square. So I'll just walk you through the damage that I found. So this is just the overview of the roof. You can see on this left slope, there's wind damage all over this roof. So I'll walk you through that wind damage. So you can see here, you can see this crease shingle going across the top. If you look at this shingle, you'll see it's just a single crease line going across the top. There's no double creasing on this shingle. That's how we know it's legitimate wind damage. And then if we look underneath, you'll see that there's no mat transfer there. So that's how we know this is legitimate wind damage, because there's no double creasing, and then there's no mat transfer underneath that shingle. And you can see underneath the shingle the rusted nail heads. More wind damage here. Just kind of see that line going across the top, no double creasing, no mat transfer underneath there. Again, that's how we know it's legitimate wind damage. Same thing here, you see that crease line there. More here. More here. Same thing here, you can see that crease line. More there. More here. Same thing there. More wind damage there. More here. See that crease line there. More wind damage there. More here. More here. More wind damage here. Oops. You kind of see this shingle is almost resealed, but you can see the crease line going there. More wind damage here. Same thing there. See that crease line? More here. More wind damage there. You can see that crease line going across the top of the shingle. Shingle lifts up. So you got a ton of wind damage on this left slope. And then we also had some hail impacts as well. So I did a test square, and I found 14 hail impacts inside of that test square. So I'll kind of zoom in so you can see this hail impact here. You can see the round hail impact. And why I think it's hail versus blistering is because if you look in the middle, you can see how the hail has knocked the asphalt into the shingle. That's how we distinguish hail from a blister, is because you'll see the impact, but then inside the impact, you can see how the hail has drilled the asphalt into the shingle. So it has shingle, asphalt still there. Same thing here. See that hail impact? Same thing here. Same thing here. You can kind of see that impact going around right there. And then if you zoom in, you can see how the hail has been knocked into the shingle. Same thing there. More here, you can kind of see the round impact and then how the hail is driven in. Same thing there. You can see that hail, that round impact. And then in the middle, you can see the asphalt driven into the shingle. Same thing there. You can see that impact and then the hail driven into the shingle there. Same thing here. You can see that round impact there. So on this left slope, you've got a ton of wind damage. You've got 20 plus crease shingles, and then you also have about 14 hail damage shingles inside the test square. And then right here on the hip, right there, you'll see a blown off hip shingle. And then on the front, I found about 11 hail impacts as well. And then we'll move to the back. On the back, I mainly found wind damage. I found about 14 wind damage shingles on the back. So you can just kind of see it. Right here, you can see this crease shingle on the hip or where it's about to blow off on the back. See that crease line going all the way across the top. You can see it to where the homeowners made repairs before. And then down here, you can see a missing shingle, partially missing shingle there. That's wind damage as well. And then we got a lot of crease shingles back here. See that crease line going across there. More wind damage there. More here. More there. More here. There. Same thing. You can see that crease line going across the top. Same thing here. Crease line going across the top. More here. There. More up here. See that crease line going across the top. More here. So on the back slope, you got 3 damaged shingles on the hip. And then on the back slope, you have about 11 crease shingles. So on the total back slope, found about 14 indications of wind damage. And then the same thing on these shingles. You can see there's a single crease, there's no double creasing. And then if you look underneath the shingles, there's no mat transfer there. Same thing here, a single crease going across the top, no double creasing. How we know it's legit wind damage, no mat transfer underneath there. So that's how we know it's caused by a storm and there's legitimate wind damage, because there's no double creasing, no mat transfer underneath. So just a brief overview on this roof. If you look at the back slope, the amount of damage on the back slope, this back slope cannot be repaired because it's brittle. You can see the brittleness, how the shingle is starting to tear up, so you cannot make a repair, and then it's too much damage. So this back slope has to be fully replaced because of the amount of damage. And then we're here on the left slope. If you're facing the house, same thing here. You've got a ton of wind damage all over the roof. It's pretty widespread. And then we also have hail impacts. So with the amount of damage on this left slope, this slope cannot be repaired because of the amount of wind damage. And then if you look at the shingle, you can see like the brittleness, how the roof is starting to tear up. So this roof on the left slope cannot be repaired. It's a ton of damage, and you can just tell it's aged. So just looking at the back slope and the left slope, these slopes have too much damage to be repaired, has to be fully replaced. And then here on the front, you can just kind of see hail impacts as well. See that round indenture, and then how the hail is driven into the shingle. Same thing here, you can see that little round impact there, and how the hail has driven the asphalt into the shingle. So on the front, I found about 11 indications of hail damage. So I'll send this video over to you guys just documenting the damage to this roof. But as I stated before, because of the amount of wind and hail damage on this roof cannot be repaired. It has to be fully replaced.